All right, hey, so pretty much here today, I'm back with a discussion. It's pretty much more about Mortal Kombat, and specifically, it's about Johnny Cage. Um, if you hear anything in the background, it might just be my AC. I don't know if you hear anything or not, or maybe like a random noise from outside. I don't know, but I've spoken about it maybe once or twice, maybe sometimes before. Um, but it's more about Johnny Cage's retcon powers, which I think I want to say I took notice around MK9 with like the cutscenes and stuff, or it might have been Shaolin Monks because I think we saw him in like the beginning epilogue, but I don't know if we actually like saw him in like the actual like game. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been years since I played Shaolin Monks, and it's even been years since I played MK9. I've seen some story mode gameplay on YouTube, but I've never actually like delved into like the whole, you know, full story, except when I actually played it myself, and maybe like once afterwards when I watched it on YouTube. But I was that was like a few years ago as well. But I've had a problem with Johnny Cage and how they pretty much retcon his powers because if I believe correctly, MK9 in the cutscenes, I believe they kind of retcon his powers. And I might be wrong. I might be wrong here. But I know, of course, naturally, we took notice with it in MKX. To where he's basically not shown to actually use them. And I got really annoyed because it came a lot more noticeable with MK11, the one before MK1, which I do have an example of MK1. I'm watching the stream right now of a Twitch stream, Destroyer FGC, but they kind of not solved the issue, but kind of went ahead and addressed it, basically, kind of, in a way, even though they technically did before. But I had noticed that they kind of made it seem like, which is kind of cool, that pretty much you basically got this regular guy that can go, you know, fists in hand to hand with these people who have like all these powers and stuff, with just regular punches and kicks. I mean, pretty much, right? He just had his own style, and he's just that good. But I don't know, it always never sat right with me because I'm like, well, especially in MKX when they were trying to make a whole big deal about him using his green energy, and to me, I'm like, he's been using this crap this whole time. Only thing I can think of was back in the original Mortal Kombat. Okay, duh, right? They're not gonna think of giving this dude some green energy, and I could be wrong with that as well. I've played it, but I don't remember if he's actually ever had like a green energy orb. They probably just gave him some flying kicks or shadow kick or whatever you call it, right? But besides that, after that, it pretty much became his staple moveset across the 3D era games, going all the way up until MK11. And even then, it was so weird. In MKX, they tried to make it seem like it was just some god-killing power, right? And of course, they made that tie into the story mode with Cassie and killing Shinnok, or defeating Shinnok, let's say that, right? But it was weird. And MK11, in the story mode, he basically just doesn't even have those powers. But when you actually play the character, he has them, which was just a huge, like, 180 from a narration standpoint. I mean, it's just a writing standpoint. It doesn't make sense. Because I'm like, how are you going to basically say that he just doesn't have this power, or he just can't tap into it anymore, when you have seamless gameplay? When I say seamless, I mean you can pretty much go from gameplay to cutscene into back into gameplay, following the story of him using these powers. It never made sense to me. And then you're not going to say, okay, well, Cassie defeated him and all this stuff, and okay, she has the powers, right? Or at least she's the most recent user of the powers, so you can probably tap into them. But even with her, I don't even think we've even seen her use it in the story mode of MK11. I might be wrong, but okay, she's got pistols. Woo, that's awesome, I guess. But why have that as a staple of their move sets if they're not able to actually like use them? And what's the big deal with them not even being able to use them? Why Johnny Cage of all people? You would think I can understand why Raiden got him, because he is a really good freaking fighter. He's pretty much one of the best in Earthrealm. But at the same time, I kind of felt that one of the things that made him special was because he had his own power set, and it was something to use against these people with powers. But just even alone, just saying that, okay, he doesn't have any power, he's just a really good fighter, how they portrayed him in MK11 really says otherwise. A lot of times when he tried to fight, he got his ass handed to him. And it was kind of stupid, where in the opening of MKX, he took on both Scorpion and Sub-Zero at the same time. He was able to actually fight off Shinnok in MKX, of course, with the help of Sonya. Now, he only really won because of the green energy, but I'm like, well, if he should have just had that in the first place. What's the whole deal? If y'all want to actually make that a plot point, y'all could have been established that, but it pretty much came out of nowhere. And now, as of MK1, now they have him doing all of these moves. He has, well, I want to say reportedly, visually, he has no, projectiles. He doesn't have any green energy. All you see is pretty much has this little star power, where he pretty much has like a little light shine down. He gains a few extra moves where he's able to do moves consecutively more than once. Tying to more launchers, keep you in the air longer. He's actually like able to dash. But interesting is, it doesn't just give you a little move set. It shows this little after effect, even after some of his moves without the star. So me personally, I feel like the story kind of made it go nowhere, especially with quote unquote killing off Cassie and the younger KOMBAT cast with the whole story revamp again. But maybe they're trying to tie that into this story as well. Maybe they're going to give the character a color palette swap some point later in the game, whereas in MK11, after you beat the game, you get God of Fire Liu Kang skin. Maybe you get a color palette of his actual like residuals of in-game battle, or it's actually like the little green effect, where you have to get to a certain point in the story mode for it to happen. Maybe if it's Conquest, maybe if it's Graveyard, something, right? Could be anything. But it's weird. That's why I was saying this game kind of quote unquote addressed it, but then not really. It still doesn't make sense. I can understand with this universe technically why he wouldn't have it, but why though? If Liu Kang basically rewrote everybody, where seemingly in this universe, like, he basically is an actual successful movie star. So that's really the only main change I can see. And I'm guessing since Sonya is not an actual playable character, he never actually meets her, there is technically no Mortal Kombat tournament because there's just peace. That's what I got so far. I mean, the game hadn't even come out yet. So, but I mean, even from the movies, okay, the original ones, they don't show him having any green energy. That's fine. That's great. And maybe that could have been the earliest iteration to say that he actually doesn't have any powers. He's just really good at fighting. But it just kind of felt weird to give him these power sets across all these games and not have him be able to do it now. Especially in MKX when they elaborate on his powers by giving him 3 different movesets. That's the weirdest part. I mean, they kind of developed his powers even more by basically he's able to make a clone that can stand outside of his body and fight for him, technically. I mean, now they just basically gave that, well, Kenshi kind of already had that, but Kenshi's was more like a ghost before, or like, you know, but now it's kind of more like an actual, like, kind of like a Johnny Cage thing, honestly, kind of, right? But I kind of want to see where it's going to go with it. If they don't address the little green energy or whatever that he has, it's kind of weird. I just feel like it's kind of weird with this character specifically. And now, even now, I guess they're doing something weird with Scorpion where he still technically has fire powers, which goes against the complete and utter writing of the character since the beginning, since he was even introduced. He technically shouldn't have them because he's a Spectre, or at least used to be before he got his soul back. But in the MKX comics, they explain how he still has his powers and all that stuff. That's fine, whoop-de-doo. Alright? But if Sub-Zero's lineage just has, like, so you just randomly get a gene where you just get ice powers, where him and his brother did, I don't see why Johnny Cage can't get his green energy. It just seems weird. But that was pretty much it for today's video. Hopefully they kind of address it. If not, then it is what it is. I feel like, I don't think they're going to butcher the character because he's still his own character. But for powers and just fighting ability, they kind of did that in MK11. They kind of made him just get his ass beat. I don't really appreciate it. That's pretty much it for today's video. See you later.